Two brothers, Adam and David, live in the United States. The two started a small business together. The dream was to build a big company by working hard. Adam was honest, worked hard day and night. David was more greedy. He kept looking for shortcuts. Within a few years, the business took off. Adam thought everything was going well, but David secretly began to manipulate the company's papers. The bank accounts were taken in his name, and one day suddenly, Adam was fired from the office. His brother pulled him out onto the street. Adam's world fell apart, but he didn't give up. He worked hard, studied day and night, and believed in his abilities. 5 years passed, and Adam built a new company with his own hard work, which was much bigger than David's company. Now the situation has changed. David's company was in debt. Forced, he decided to sell his building and brand. When Bauer arrived and David signed the papers, he looked shocked. It was Adam. David said in a low voice, "What have you done?" Adam laughed and said, "Yes, David, revenge takes time, but when it comes, it changes everything." David calmed down, and Adam sighed in relief. A few months passed. David was now alone and devastated. He was forced to sit as a tenant in the office he once graciously occupied, in the same building today, and that too with Adam's permission. One day, David came to the door of Adam's office. His hands were trembling, and there were tears in his eyes. The guard at the reception wanted to stop, but Adam pointed out, "Let him come in. This is my brother." David sat in the chair and cried. He said, "Adam, I returned you, humiliated you, took away everything. I'm empty-handed today. If you want to destroy me forever but give me a chance, I want to correct my mistake." Adam stared at him in silence. He took a deep breath and said, "I took revenge. Time has done the math. But the real question is, do you really want to change, or will greed blind you again?" David nodded his head. "I swear, I don't want wealth anymore. I just want respect and your trust." Adam's heart softened a little. He said, "Okay, David, I'll give you a chance. But remember, trust connects again after being broken, but always leaves a mark." David said with tears in his eyes, "Thank you for this opportunity. I will not do it." David began to work with Adam. He now did the same menial jobs that ordinary employees did, handling files, taking notes of meetings, and checking stuff in the warehouse. At first, people were surprised. Some of the staff laughed and said, "That's David. Who fired his brother from the company?" David didn't answer. Adam watched from a distance. He knew it wasn't the real test. Rather, it is a reawakening of greed. A few days later, the opportunity came. The papers of a large contract fell into David's hands. The deal was so large that millions of dollars could have gone directly into his account if he had made minor changes to the papers, and Adam might not have known. At night, David was sitting alone in the office looking at the file. The old devil awoke in my heart. "It's time, a signature and everything back to you." But then he remembered the moment when Adam said in front of everyone, "Trust takes root, but it always leaves a mark." There were tears in David's eyes. He closed the file and brought it to Adam the next day. "Brother, everything is fine. I didn't hide anything." Adam looked into her eyes for the first time and realized that it's really changing. A few weeks later, Adam called David into his cabin. There was a file on the table, the New York project. It was the company's biggest deal, a $1 million game. Adam smiled and put the file in front of David and said, "Now it's up to you. If you want, take a shortcut and make quick money, or honestly, go ahead and win everyone's heart." David opened the file. There was an option in which he could fill his pocket by making. The New York project's honest deal took Adam and David's company to new heights. Their reputation spread in the market that these brothers are the ones who do not cheat. Big investors themselves started coming to their doorstep. One evening, the two brothers were standing on the roof of the office looking at the lights of the city. Adam looked up to the sky and said, "I remember when you took everything away from me and I was completely empty-handed." David opened his eyes. He said softly, "That was the biggest mistake of my life. If you didn't give me another chance, I wouldn't be here today." Adam put his hand on his shoulder and said, "The revenge was complete in time, but the real victory was given by forgiveness. I forgive you, and today we are together again." There were tears in David's eyes. He said, "Now I will make only one promise, never to cheat again. Now I know that money isn't real wealth. There's trust." As time went on, Adam and David's company became one of the most successful companies in America. The two brothers stood shoulder to shoulder with each other. Where earlier there was betrayal and hatred, now there was trust and brotherhood. At a ceremony, Adam received the Businessman of the Year award. Standing on the stage, he said, "This success is not only mine, it is also my brother David's. He made a mistake, but a man learns from his mistakes. And the biggest lesson I learned was that forgiveness is the best revenge." There were screams in the hall. There were tears in David's eyes. He came to Adam and said in front of everyone, "I once lost a brother, but today I have got him back." People watched the scene with amazement and emotion. Thus ended the story of the two brothers. Betrayal temporarily breaks relationships, but forgiveness gives new life to those relationships. A few years later, Adam and David's lives had become more prosperous than ever. The company had spread around the world, and the two brothers stood by each other in every decision. One day, a young man came to me for an interview. Adam and David looked at each other. The boy's name was Mark, and he was as helpless and empty-handed as in those days, as once Adam was left behind after the deception. During the interview, Mark said, "I just need a chance. Sir, I will do all the hard work." Adam laughed and said, "Sometimes I was also looking for an opportunity, and my own brother did not give it to me. But today, I want us to give others the opportunity we never had." David also said, "Yes, this will be our real success. Not just to make money, but to help others." There were tears in Mark's eyes, and he immediately stood up and said, "I will never disappoint you." The story begins now for others. There was hope. Time went by at its own pace. Adam and David are old. Both had now handed over the major decisions of the company to the new generation, but everyone knew that the sacrifice and story of these brothers was the foundation of the company. One day the two were sitting on a bench in an old park, the same park where they used to play as children. Adam looked up at the sky. "I remember when you've lost everything. I thought that day, we can never be one." David's eyes lit up. He said softly, "That was my biggest mistake. But your forgiveness gave me a second chance. Otherwise, I would have been alone forever." Adam laughed and said, "And this is the lesson we have given to the world, that revenge gives temporary peace, but forgiveness binds hearts forever." The two brothers died a few days later, but their story lives on in people's hearts. People remember him as they were brothers, those who showed the world that deceit breaks relationships, but forgiveness makes them immortal forever. Even years later, the story of Adam and David had become an example across America. Lectures were given about him in universities. His life was taught as a case study in business schools. One day, a big event was held at the company's head office. There was a large painting of the two brothers, below which was written in golden letters, "Deception is temporary, but forgiveness is forever." Young students and businessmen come there to take pictures and say the same thing. If Adam had not forgiven his brother, this story would never have been a beacon of hope. Mark, the same young man they had given a chance to, had now become the company's CEO. He came on stage and said, Adam and David did not just create a company, but taught humanity that the real success is in forgiveness. The hall erupted in applause, and they will always be remembered in my heart. He became alive. A few years later, the story of Adam and David spread from the borders of America to the world. Articles were written on him in different languages. Documentaries were made, and he came to be referred to as a legendary story in business seminars. A university in Europe named its business program the Adam-David Principle. That is, the Adam-David Principle, which meant deception gives temporary success, but forgiveness is a guarantee of lasting success. Children at a school in Asia were performing a play. One child was playing the role of Adam, and the other was playing the role of David. At the end, when the brothers hug each other, the entire hall bursts into applause. Mark, who had now become the company's global CEO, was standing at an international conference saying, "The story of Adam and David is not just about business, it's a life lesson. If those two brothers had not forgiven each other, we might not all have learned that the real victory is not in vengeance but in forgiveness. A story that begins with a deception, a light for the whole world, and it became a lesson."